is up, everybody? Welcome to Truth and Transparency. It is, Tuesday night, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 if you are all the way out on the West Coast, possibly 8:30. Thank you for being in chat. At some point, you're going to have an opinion. Make yourself known. This will be a couple episodes. So here we go. Case summary straight from the Coeur d'Alene Police Department's incident report. So in order to understand, and when we talk with Courtney, it's best for you to understand the story based off of the reports, and then understand how she came to understand about her son being dead. This is going to blow your mind, folks. All right. On May 29, 2016, I responded to 812 North C Street in regards to a male with a gunshot wound to his head. The male was reported to be in the backyard of the home, lying on the ground. Upon my arrival, I approached the residence from the front. The residence faces west, and I went around the residence to the south side. I entered a carport area through a gate. There was immediately another gate on the north side of the carport. The second gate was approximately chest high on me. I was able to see over it, and I observed a male laying on the ground. His feet were oriented in a southward direction. His head was oriented in a northward direction, and face was pointed in an eastward direction. So he was in a diagonal direction. His left side was lying on the ground, his left side. I observed all of this as I was entering the second gate into the backyard. There was a very large pool of red liquid on the ground around the head of the male. As I approached him, that there was a covered porch area directly behind him, and the male was lying on the dirt just in front of the porch. This was to the east of the porch. So what you're seeing in this picture right here is this is the pavement porch that's covered. And right before you would get to like this cement here, that's where it's got the dirt. And so you can see there's a door there going into the back of the house there. I also noticed a black semi-automatic handgun lying on its side. The barrel firearm was pointing east, and the ejection port of the firearm was oriented upward, and the magazine well was oriented south. The firearm was lying on the deck of the porch, so the pavement part, just to the west of the male's feet. When I approached the body of the male and saw the firearm, I also observed a door, which you guys can see right there, that entered the residence. There were people, a male and a female, on the other side of the door. They appeared to be crying. I cleared the backyard, looking for any potential threats. Once cleared, I checked the body of the male for a pulse on his neck. He was slightly cold to the touch. I noticed he had a bulge the shape of a wallet in his back right pants pocket. I removed this so I could identify who he was. I located his driver's license inside the wallet and identified him as Isaiah Wall. Coeur d'Alene Fire responded to evaluate Isaiah, but cleared the scene shortly thereafter. Inner and outer perimeters were established, and a crime scene log was started by Officer Wilcox. I entered the residence and began to speak with the people. I contacted a Christine, a Will, and a Ricky All parties stated that they were asleep at the time of the incident. Christine told me she had been sleeping on the couch, and now Christine is the mother of one of the boys that lives there. So Christine told me she had been sleeping on the couch and was awoken when Will, located the body and was yelling and crying in the kitchen. Christine told me they located Isaiah at approximately 5 o'clock in the morning. She told me when she initially saw him, she was hysterical and unable to speak. She called her friend Justin over, who came to the residence from Post Falls. He arrived at approximately 5:30. Justin then called law enforcement once he arrived. Justin was also a close friend of Isaiah's. Will told me he had last seen Isaiah at about 2 o'clock in the morning and stated that they had been up talking and drinking a few beers. William stated he is very good friends with Isaiah and is not related to him. Christine informed me that Isaiah had been living with her and Richard, who is her son, for several months. Richard was hysterical and face down on the couch crying. I was unable to speak with him due to his emotional state. Detectives Lowry and Renew, along with Lieutenant McLeod, would be arriving on scene, and they took over to begin processing the scene. Now, this is the next report from Renew, which is Coeur d'Alene. I received a call this morning at about 5:45 from Lieutenant McLeod regarding an apparent suicide which occurred at 812 North C Street in Coeur d'Alene. Patrol officers were on scene and would contain it until detectives could arrive. Detective Lowry, McLeod, and I arrived on scene at approximately the same time. When I arrived, I met with Officer Nelson, who gave me a brief overview of what he learned upon arriving at the house. Officer Nelson told me the victim, Isaiah Wall, had been living at the residence. The residence belongs to Christine, who is the mother of Richard Robertson. Richard Robertson and Wall are friends. Wall has been living with Robertson but didn't have a room at the residence. He would just sleep on the couches. Wall also was in the process of moving to a different place. This was the last night that Wall was planning to stay at the house. On that night, which was the night of May 28, 2016, Wall, Robinson, and another male, William, had been drinking alcohol and relaxing at the house. After drinking for most of the night, Robinson and Will had gone back inside, leaving Wall outside alone. At about 5 a.m., Robinson heard a gunshot and went outside to see what was going on. When he went to the backyard, Robinson found Wall lying on the ground bleeding. Robinson notified both Will and Christine about Wall. Christine, instead of calling 911, Christine called a friend over, Justin from Post Falls, who immediately came over. When he arrived, Justin asked where the police were, and Christine told them, oh, she had not called law enforcement yet. Justin then called law enforcement, and that's where Officer Nielsen arrived a short time later. Officer Nielsen told me nothing had been moved, but medical personnel had arrived to evaluate Wall. After a short evaluation, medical personnel cleared the scene. When I first saw the area Wall was found, I noted a Glock handgun lying on the concrete porch in the backyard. The handgun was pointing east. I also noted a deceased male in his early 20s with dark hair. The male was lying on his left side and slightly forward. His head was towards the north end of the yard, and his feet were towards the south. The male, identified by the Idaho driver's license as Isaiah Wall, had an obvious wound to his right side of his head. Please listen to that. His right side of his head. The left side of Wall's head was lying toward the ground. There was a significant amount of blood around Wall's head and face. I noted what appeared to be blood spatter on Wall's left hand. I didn't see any blood spatter or suspicious marks on Wall's right hand. Wall was clothed wearing tan pants, a blue long-sleeve shirt, and shoes. I didn't see any other obvious signs of trauma to Wall's body. As I was looking around, I noted one fired bullet casing lying on the ground near the back door to the residence. Okay. Again, as I was looking around, I noted one fired bullet casing lying on the ground near the back door to the residence. I was also made aware of an unfired bullet lying on the kitchen floor. It was unknown if the bullet in the kitchen was the same caliber as the handgun found on scene. I began photographing the scene and the different evidence items found. While taking photographs, I noted what appeared to be blood spatter on the awning above the concrete patio. I photographed these items. Additionally, Detective Lowry pointed out a fired bullet lying on the ground near the north edge of the concrete patio. I photographed this as well. After I photographed all of these items, Detective Lowry collected the items. Coroner Warren Keene arrived on scene. While the coroner was on scene, Wall's body was inspected for any additional injuries. The left side of Wall's head had significant trauma to it. There weren't any other signs of trauma to Wall's body. Wall's body was released to Bell Tower Funeral Home. I walked around inside the residence. Ricky Robinson and Will were friends of Wall's and were upset. I briefly talked with Christine about interviewing both of them at a later date. I was able to walk around inside the residence looking for anything out of the ordinary. I looked in the kitchen and living room upstairs. There was also a small basement with a bedroom downstairs. Robinson lives in the basement. I looked through Robinson's room and the rest of the basement, but didn't locate anything noteworthy. Now, This is what he would have seen. Next report from a different officer. Okay. This is Officer Wilcox. On 5/29/2016, I responded to 812 North C Street for a report of a possible suicide. Dispatch advised that the male victim was located in the backyard with what appeared to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Upon arrival, Officer Nielsen and Schatz were already on scene. I began setting up an interior perimeter marked off with crime scene tape. Once that was complete, I secured the outer perimeter with tape as well and started a crime scene log. Upon officers arriving, 2 subjects were sitting on the front porch. They were identified as Justin and his mother, Catherine. Justin advised me that he was the person who called the police. He stated that he was at home when he received a call from Christine at 5:20 in the morning. She told me that she needed him at the residence now. When he asked what was going on, he stated that she was like, Isaiah, he just shot himself. Justin stated that he helped his mother into the car and then responded to the C Street address. Upon his arrival, he asked where the cops were at. Christine stated that, she did not know and did not know if anyone had called them. Justin told me that he then called the police and followed the directions given to him by dispatch. At this time, Officer Nielsen arrived out front and began speaking to Justin. Refer to his departmental report for further. And now here's your log. At 5:32 hours, Officer Nielsen and Officer Shadd arrived on scene and entered the crime scene. Justin and Catherine already on scene and in crime scene. 5:35, myself and Sergeant Reed arrived on scene and entered the crime scene. 5:36, fire, EMS, they arrive on scene. 5:41, fire, EMS, all exit the crime scene. 6:11, Officer Nielsen exited the crime scene. He then returns to the crime scene. 6:17, Lieutenant McLeod enters the crime scene. 6:18, Detective Renew enters the crime scene. 6:19, Lieutenant Hines took over crime scene log. I cleared the crime scene at this time. 6:19, crime scene cleared. Officer Schatz wrote 3 sentences. I responded to 812 North C Street for a possible suicide. I arrived on scene with Officer Nielsen and observed a male lying on the ground in the backyard. He had an obvious head wound with a significant amount of blood pooling around his head. There was a Glock handgun, unknown model, on the ground just behind him. I also observed an open Zippo-style lighter on the ground nearby. Officer Nielsen removed a wallet from the male back right pocket to identify him. Officer Nielsen also located a spent handgun casing behind the male, located near a case of drinking water. So next up. Oops. Let me show this other one. There we go. Now we would have another so this is a different shell casing. I also observed, Nielsen also located a spent handgun casing behind the male, located near a case of drinking water. I took preliminary photographs of the scene and stayed with the male and evidence to ensure no one moved or came in contact with it. Detective arrived and scene, and Sergeant Reed released me. I uploaded my stuff. Now, this will be the last one, and it's the most important one. This was the narrative from Bill McLeod. On 5/29/2016, approximately 5:40, Sergeant Reed called me to advise he was at 812 C Street in reference to call involving a possible suicide of a male in the backyard of that residence. He said the male was deceased from a gunshot wound to the head, and officers have secured the scene with crime scene tape. He further told me that the residents of that address were currently inside and being interviewed by officers. Interviewed. I called Detectives Renew and Lowry and provided them the details relayed to me from Sergeant Reed and requested they respond to the address, and we arrived at approximately the same time. Upon arrival, there was an adult female and adult male sitting on the front steps of the residence. We met with the Sergeant Reed, Officer Nielsen, and Officer Wilcox in the front yard. Officer Wilcox was at the location keeping a crime scene log. Sergeant Reed and Officer Nielsen escorted us along the south side of the residence to the gate leading into the backyard. Officer Schatz was standing at this location for scene security. Officer Nielsen provided Detective Renew a summary of what officers saw and were told after they first arrived on scene. Now here's where it gets interesting. Upon entering the backyard, the deceased male, Isaiah Wall, was immediately visible, lying on the ground, just a few inches from a covered back porch of the residence. The backyard was basically compacted dirt and not much of a landscape yard with grass. Wall was fully clothed, wearing shoes, jeans, and a long sleeve shirt. We have one guy saying he was wearing tan pants. This guy is saying he is wearing jeans. He was wearing a watch on his left hand. Very important. He was wearing a watch on his left hand, and there appeared to be a set of keys on a lanyard hanging out of his right rear pocket. He was lying in a north-south direction and facing east. Wall's right arm was crossed over his left, and his left hand / fingers appeared to be in a grasping position, but it was empty. There was a substantial amount of blood and small amounts of brain tissue on the ground coming from Wall's head. It appeared as though there was trauma to both sides of his head. The right side of his head, near the temple area, appeared to have trauma associated with possibly exit point from a gunshot wound. The trauma to the left side of his head appeared to be more substantial, which, based off of my training and experience, appears to possibly be from a gunshot wound fired at point-blank range. There also appeared to be some stifling and blood spatter on the left hand and left sleeve, which can be a result of gunshot being fired at close range. The closest weapon observed was a Glock handgun. The closest weapon, so there's multiple weapons. The closest weapon observed was a Glock handgun, which was lying on the cement floor of the back porch, not far from the edge of the backyard, but closer to where the Wall's feet were positioned. There was also a shell casing and a mushroomed bullet fragment located on the floor of the back porch, but those were closer to the back wall of the residence and were located at separate locations. There did not appear to be any blood or other bodily matter located on the porch floor, walls, or the ground immediately surrounding the body. There did appear to be a small amount of blood and possibly body tissue located on the ceiling, the back porch closest to the edge of the porch. This scene was processed by Detective Lowry and Renew. We were also told that Wall's vehicle, a green Ford Mustang, was parked across the street from 812 C Street. I went out the vehicle to see if I could find any possible suicide note or anything like a gun case or ammunition that could show Wall may have owned the gun located on the scene. The vehicle was locked, and when I looked in the windows, I could see some clothes on hangers lying on the back seat along with a basketball and baseball bat. I could also see the handle of what appeared to be a black Bowie-type knife in between the driver's seat and center console. I took photographs of where the vehicle was parked as well as the front of 812 C Street. I contacted Detectives Renew and Lowry again in the backyard and told them that the vehicle was locked. One of them removed the keys and lanyard from the male's back pocket and handed it to me. There was a Ford key on the key ring. I went back out to the Ford Mustang. I was able to unlock it, and I opened the hatchback with his key. I looked inside the car further, but there was really nothing else located other than what was mentioned earlier. The hatchback only contained a black jacket. I locked the vehicle and returned the keys to Detective Renew and Lowry. I went inside the residence to speak with the homeowner, Christine, the mom that didn't call 911. Also present was a woman now named Tammy. Justin was still there, Richard Robinson, and Will. Tammy had just shown up after the fact as emotional support for Christine and was not present when the incident occurred. Robinson was lying on the couch in the living room and appeared to be sleeping. Will was also lying on the couch in the living room, but I couldn't tell if he was awake or not. I earlier saw him sleeping on the couch. Will appeared calm and did not emotionally appear very upset over the incident. Due to the fact we observed empty beer cans and bottles in the porch or in the back porch and in the fire pit, I asked Christine if she knew if Wall had been drinking any alcohol, like last night or this morning. And she said that he drank a couple of Rolling Rock, which was one of the brand name beer cans observed on the back porch. Christine said that she did not believe Wall was intoxicated at all last night, and he appeared to be in very good spirits, which at one point she described Wall as giggling like a little girl around midnight. Christine said she is not aware of any prescribed medications or illegal drugs that Wall may have taken or used. Christine further said that Wall has been living with her and her son for about the last 6 months, but he was in the process of moving out to a friend of his, but she did not know the name of that friend, nor she didn't know where he was moving. She knows Wall has some emotional / depression issues in the past, and her son talked to Wall about those issues. Wall also has an estranged relationship with his mother, but seems to get along with his father because she knows he hung out with him during last football season watching games. In regards to the actual incident, Christine said he was sleeping and didn't hear anything. She was sleeping and didn't hear anything until she was awoke by her son, who was frantic and emotional after finding Wall's body. Christine was shocked and didn't know what to do. So she called Justin over and asked him to come on over. That's a mother. That's a mother of these 19-year-olds. The mom. The mom doesn't know what to do. So she called Justin, who lives in Post Falls, to come over. According to Christine, Wall was known to carry a handgun on his person all of the time and would carry it in his waistband. Cooney County Coroner Warren Keene also responded to the scene, and he performed his check of Wall. Based on his observations and information we provided to Coroner Keene, he authorized release of the body to Bell Tower Funeral Home and advised at this point he was not going to post the body for an autopsy, but would obtain a toxicology screen. The scene was cleared by all personnel shortly thereafter. As of May 31st, 2016, Detective Renew was going to continue with doing some, follow-up investigation by doing additional interviews with, Christine, Will, the guys that were just sleeping on the bed or on the couch, Ricky, Justin, in order to get a better picture of what transpired the hours leading up to Isaiah's death, as well as if anyone moved the Glock handgun prior to police and medical being called. I wonder why this officer is so interested in, did anybody move this gun? At this point in the investigation, it appears as though the gunshot wound was inflicted by Wall because there are no statements or other information indicating anyone else was with him in the backyard at the time the gunshot was heard, as well as when he was discovered. There is also the stippling on his left hand and blood spatter on his left sleeve that may be consistent with a close-range gunshot, as well as the fact that his land hand appeared to be in a grasping position. It does not appear that Wall would have been the victim of a robbery because he was still wearing a watch, had a set of keys on a lanyard hanging out of his back pocket, and first responding patrol officers said they located his wallet in his pocket when they were checking for his identification. No further information at this time. No further information ever. From that man. Now, on June 2nd, so on 5/28 would be like the night leading into 5/29, finding the body allegedly at 5 o'clock in the morning. That was on 5/31 in that follow-up, where it was just like, hey, this is what these people said, and that's all we have, so it's done deal. Now on 6/2, which is just a couple days later, I was called to respond to a scene on 5/29, 2016. So on 6/2, 2016, I was called to respond to a scene on 5/29, 2016. I was advised a male was deceased with a gunshot wound. On 6/1, 2016, I was advised Bell Tower found a bullet in Wall's pocket. On 6/2, 2016, I responded to Bell Tower to pick this up. I was handed a white bag. Inside the bag is a yellow shotgun shell that had not been fired. I will book this into evidence. Measurements were taken from the wall of the house on the east side and on the north side. And so then they put where the gun was, where the bullet was, where the casing was, where the body was, where the left foot was, the knee, the right foot, right knee. They have no measurements for the body. Right hip, right shoulder, head, left hand, right hand. Now, on 6/6, 2016, Will, came into the PD with his mother for an interview. I told Will he was free to leave and did not have to answer any of my questions if he did not want to. Will understood. He told me that he had been friends with Isaiah for about 2 years now and would see him on a daily basis or at least every other day. He knew Isaiah fought every day with depression and was holding on to a lot of things that happened to him as a child. He has never really expressed wanting to kill himself, though. Will said he just recently learned Isaiah was working for the DEA because of some hit and run. He said he was going out and buying drugs for them. I asked Will if Isaiah had a history of this, and he said he did not. He told me on the night in question, they had gone out for some drinks and had been playing ball in the park. Later on, they returned to the residence with a couple of girls and were just sitting around drinking, having fun. Isaiah would step out every so often, to talk with one of the girls, but that was about it. Around the time Isaiah shot himself, William said that he was very tired. He had just sat down on the couch to have a drink of water from his jug and started to close his eyes when he heard the shot. Will ran outside to find Isaiah laying on the ground. William could not believe what he was seeing and yelled for the other residents to come outside. 911 was not immediately called, but it was eventually called by the homeowner. And that's not accurate. I asked Will if anyone moved the body or the gun, and he said they had not. William was still in shock over this, but does not believe anyone did this to Isaiah and that he did it to himself. William said he could be available for any further questions if we needed him. What's the one thing that you guys have not heard about yet? Where's Isaiah's phone? They talked about his wallet. They talked about his keys. Well, here we go. On 6/10/2016, June 10th, 2016, Ted Pulver brought in Isaiah's cell phone. Ted told me they had already had it forensically reviewed by a company, but would not tell me who did it. He also would not release any information they obtained from the review. Prior to Ted bringing in the phone, it was learned that Isaiah was on his phone just prior to shooting himself. We are not sure who at this time he was talking to, but we believe it was a female. I think you're wrong. We are looking to get into the phone to determine who Isaiah was talking to and if there is any information that may lead us to learn more about this shooting. Smartphones are known to contain a large amount of data on them, and this phone may contain a note or some type of documentation that could explain Isaiah's state of mind at the time of the shooting. That's the last report. Now, let's take a look at something else here. All right, so I want you guys to see something. You know me, I gotta go and look around and see what I can find. So a couple things I want to show you guys. So this is the door here. You can see when the door is open there, you can see that's the wooden part of the kitchen. I want you to look right here to right behind them. You see that table that's right there? This would have been just on May 19th. Just a couple of, 10 days before the shooting. And there's this table, okay? You guys can see that. And so between 5:19 and 5:29, 5:28, they decided to move this table clearly. Also, for people that are hanging out and drinking beers, and who cleaned that place up? Who cleaned the shit out of that place? Just want to show you guys some. Now, see the cooler where it's normally at? See the waters where it normally is? He went and got a jug of water and sat down. I highly fucking doubt it. That's where the waters always were. Okay, they have this type of water as well. It's over here to the right. You guys saw where the cooler was. It was in the kitchen up on the kitchen table, or the kitchen countertop. No, it's not. Let's see. Okay. So this is a crime scene photo here. Okay. You guys know when you go to clean up and you have and you're throwing stuff away, and then you take something out of the inside garbage bag or the garbage container inside your kitchen, and you go to pull it out, and when you go set it down somewhere, you realize, oh crap, it's leaking. Okay, this bag right here, it's got fresh it was just sat down right there. You can see the water or whatever is coming out of it. So this is a crime scene photo. Now, other thing I want to show you guys is the detective isn't a moron, and he knew that somebody moved that body. And I'm going to show you how he knew somebody moved that body. First of all, these pictures should all be dated on 5/29/2016. Yes, I'm going to send her the link right now. Okay. Hang on one second. All right, Courtney's going to be joining us. I wanted to show you guys another picture there really quick. Okay. we have his health data. So these are all of his steps. As you can see, May 29th, 257, 49 steps, 301. Okay. Well, we have them all from like midnight until let's take a look at this. This is a mind blow right here. Okay. 4:46 and 13 seconds, the steps begin. And then they stop at 4:49 and 46 seconds. But on May 31st, 2016 at 9:46 p.m., that's the date that it was added to the health data. This phone was not in the hands of the police. It was not in the hands of the coroner. This phone was in the hands, because based off of the locations that this phone went, because they got a bunch of idiots, this phone basically followed around who moved the phone. Okay? So this phone, the person that took it, this phone began taking steps at 8 o'clock in the morning, right? And those kids that were at that house, they began moving this phone. And it literally is a trickle of where it went. And then poof, just magically appears. So let's see where you can get a good look at that. Right here. So see 446, 449. And then do you see how there's that gap right there? 844, 850. Yeah, those are also tagged with geolocations. Guess who went and did all of this work for her son's case? Guess who went and did all of this stuff? Courtney. Courtney went and got all this. Courtney had her son's phone extracted herself. His mom. She did all of this. Now, I'm going to show you. She's coming on. Giovanni, don't you worry. She's coming on. I needed to tell the story first so that everybody could understand that this literally, they didn't do anything. And I'm going to let her share parts that she wants to share. But what I just read to you, that's it. Those are your reports. That's it. They knew that this boy's body was moved. They know that he's right-handed. And so how could he was laying on his left side. Well, the left side was the entry wound. She called these police. She wanted them to do all of this. She finds out that he is a confidential informant for the Idaho State Police and was doing meth buys, crystal meth buys. And this all started because this kid got a DUI in this January of 2015. And he started doing these buys 11 days before he was found dead. 11 days. Now, hold on. Now, you don't think that that's crazy? I'm going to share. I cannot believe this. But the crime scene photos. Okay. When I saw this, I couldn't even believe it. I had no words. I literally had no words. They're again, remember, they all hung out on the 28th. Then it goes past midnight, so it becomes the 29th. And he was found allegedly at 5 a.m. But remember, when the cops got there at 5:32, they said that he was cold to the touch. Okay. Okay. So here we go. Take a look. This is the house. Look at this date. 5/28/2016. Ready? 5/28/2016. Look at this. 5/29/2016. That's the ground. 5/29. How in the heck do you have a photo that is taken and dated before it? I've never seen anything like this. I mean, and for like, what is going on? 5/29/2016. Like, that's the soil. That's the dirt, allegedly. Okay. And then here is allegedly his finger. 5/28/2016. Five 2016. Who takes pictures like this? What kind of pictures are these? Wouldn't you have like one that's further away? Like you guys know how like it should be. That this is unreal. That's more of a burn on his finger. Exactly. They just make crap up. This is unbelievable. They're saying that this is Isaiah's hands, his left hand. This is his left hand. But the date is the 28th. Okay? That should say the 29th. Look at this gun. This gun is in pristine condition. There is no blood on this gun. There are no fingerprints on that gun. That gun was wiped down. Okay? Acting like that's something to do with anything. Five 28/2016. That gun has no blood on it. None. Now, this mom, Courtney, first of all, I do believe that everybody in that house that night knows exactly what happened. Okay? But something that I've never seen before is an Idaho State Police. It's called a investigations assist. Okay? I've never seen this before. This is my first time ever seeing something like this. I'm going to share it with all of you guys. It is administrative information. It began on May 18th, 2016. And this is paperwork showing that Isaiah Wall was assisting investigations, and it was scheduled to go from 5:18 until 5:25. Do you see this? I've never seen paperwork like this in my life. This is my first time ever seeing this, and here it is. Let's see. Oh, by the way, Isaiah Wall was friends with Maddie's boyfriend, Jake Schreiger. Oh, wait, here we go. So I want to show you this. Now, when you take his phone, before they try to wipe it down, look at this. So map history. From my location to Western Union, from my location to Western Union, Idaho State Police Association, from my location to Idaho State Police Association. Look at that. He had been over at the Wilbur location 3 or 4 times between these dates. Okay. Nothing but the receipts, baby. Nothing but the receipts. Courtney did all of this for her son. And here, so that's, okay, hang on. I'm going to bring in Hector here, easier. Dark piece of paper, let's see if it'll work. Okay, it's good enough. Take a look at this. Boom. This is wild. See up there, it says investigation assist, 5/18/2016. This is straight from the Idaho State Police. This is exactly what their paperwork looks like. Right here, he was given a number and everything. On 5/18/2016, approximately 10, Trooper Cody Harmon brought him in, and then this is when they would check you. They would like pat you down, whatever, check your vehicle, make sure that you're. Then he did 3 seriously big ass. He never bought meth or anything like that. He sold weed, okay, and these Idaho State Police, Josh Clark, had him buying 28 grams of methamphetamine. Let me show you something else. Let me show you what happened because of this. So, All right. These sons of bitches. Give it up for this woman. Courtney did great. I mean, so here, 518, he does a control buy on 519. His hand, all dirt. You see that? That's why. He knew. Officer knew. How is his hand? How does his hand get over here? Now, they think that this is a girl. 304, 305, 320, 323, 334, 335, 335, 336. Outgoing, outgoing, outgoing. Trying to call somebody. See that? Cops didn't do anything. Now, take a look at this. Skylar Lowe. 525. See that date right there? That's the huge buy. Isaiah would have never called the girl like that, back to back to back to back to back to back to back. But see this 525 right here? Now, I'm going to show you the indictment for this one Skylar. Okay. These were the buys that they made Isaiah do. Okay. Courtney was able to figure it out based on the dates with this dude. First of all, this all got dropped because the witness was dead. So all of this for nothing. Right there. Joshua Clark. That's all who's in Isaiah's phone is Joshua Clark. Well, it's Josh. And he is sending him text messages. And I got those as well. I can share those. Writing him on social media. And let me share his he was blowing him up, like using, so here, but I have the other one where he does like, cost him like 6 times. All right, so watch these dates. And watch this. You take this down. Now we're going to bring up the messages and how this all got. And this was all over. It's just, okay, here we go. Okay. May 24th, incoming call, Josh. May 24th, 5:32, 5:01. Setting up a buy for May 25th. Ready? And then this is Eric Johnston. This working? Neither are replying. Okay, man, at this time, let's plan for tomorrow. Hit him up tonight and get it set up. I'll call you tomorrow. Did it go down like you thought with your dad? Like, Josh, say hello to your little fake account right here, Eric Johnson. But right here is the indictment. Let's take a look at this. On May 19th, ISP Detective Clark, assisted by ISP detectives, utilized a CI to conduct a controlled purchase from Lowe. The CI was outfitted with an electronic recording transmitting device. The CI and CI's vehicle were searched before and after the controlled purchase, finding no contraband. At Detective Clark's direction, the CI contacted Lowe and scheduled to purchase methamphetamine. Idaho State Police detectives followed the CI to the meeting, where they observed the CI meet with Lowe and, listening to the electronic recording transmission device, heard their conversation. Detective Clark could hear Lowe say, "I'm sure they'll like it. That shit is like grade A, pretty good. And, oh, I have like 3/4 of an ounce," or something like that. Detectives followed the CI to a predetermined location where the CI met with Detective Clark, who obtained a small plastic baggie with a crystal substance inside from the CI. The CI reported buying methamphetamine from Lowe. The substance inside the baggie weighed 1.5 grams, and the NIC test presumptive positive for methamphetamines. Oh, count 3. On May 24th, 2016, ISP Detective Clark, assisted by ISP detectives, utilized the CI to conduct a controlled purchase from Lowe. The CI was outfitted with an electronic, same thing. And they followed him. They want to get an ounce soon. And Lowe says, okay, no trouble. Detectives followed the CI to a predetermined location. And then the next date is May 25th. Courtney got a lawyer. Courtney got a team then because she went ahead and she sued. She got her lawsuit in. And you guys, all of these, I want her to tell some of this, most of the story. Oh, wait, she didn't sue. I know she was putting a case together. She was trying to get all of her son's stuff. So, Isaiah asked Josh why they were making him buy drugs during the day, and Josh said so that the satellites could see. They were forcing Isaiah to just go to people's houses. Isaiah said, "We don't do that. We have to call first." They didn't care that they were sending Isaiah into a bad situation. It took over a year to get Isaiah's CI reports. Her attorney demanded it, and she never got the full confidential informant report. She just got his 3 buys. The ones with the big blue highlighter were the controlled buys done on Isaiah, I believe, from Will, his best friend. They told Isaiah one of his good friends ratted him out. She ended up not being able to sue because she dropped the case because of the threat of harm to her other living children. Now, what I thought was interesting is I was reading these recordings They were transcribed of her calling up. Like, I want her to tell you guys about this. I've never heard anything like this in my life. Have you guys ever heard of a child being buried in their bloody clothes? Her son was buried in his bloody clothes. These pieces of shit. They lied to her. Has anyone ever heard that in their lives? She was adamant. She wanted his clothing because he was wearing that night a button-up shirt. You guys could see by the handpick I showed you. He had the button-up shirt on. That top shirt went missing. It's nowhere to be found. It's never. She wanted his clothing. She wanted him to be GSR tested. She wanted. She wanted all of this stuff done. Okay. Because none of it made any sense. How are you just sitting around and then you just walk outside the door and go shoot yourself in the head right there? No. She wanted him embalmed and they lied. She paid for it. She, you know how normally an officer will come to your house? Nobody came to her. She got a phone call. Have you heard what happened? Like, just really bizarre. She was set to exhume his body 3 days before. There was just a bunch of stuff that she was planning on doing. And she was wreaking all kind of, like, where's the one? She was calling up all these detectives. She was calling up the coroner. Let me see. Hey, what's up, Courtney? It's Lana. I have you on speakerphone. Do you want to just do it like this?
Sure.
Okay, I don't know if I can hear. Let me see if I can hear you. Are you guys able to hear? Okay. So were you hearing what I was saying?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted you to be able to fill in the things that you wanted to talk about.
Okay.
That way, I figure you could tell us, stories and situations, better than I could. And
Yeah.
we're all supportive and here for you. And I've spent the whole day reading all of this stuff. It's so awful.
So overwhelming.
Yeah. Have you talked to them ever since? Like, when's the last time you've ever talked to anybody over there at Idaho State Police?
The only time I directly spoke with ISP was when I spoke with Kemp. Actually, my journalist did. He interviewed him, and Kemp denied Isaiah being an informant. And I never spoke with Josh Clark. Nobody ever spoke with Josh Clark. He refused interviews. So the only time we ever spoke directly with ISP was when my journalist interviewed Kemp.
Okay.
And as far as the reports go, I just kept requesting.
Uh-huh.
For the 2 years following, I just kept requesting the public records reports from ISP over and over and over, and they wouldn't send anything. I think it was my one of the attorneys I had hired finally got the CI or the confidential files.
Okay.
That were done on Isaiah, and the ones that Isaiah did, my attorney from Florida ended up getting those.
Okay.
But this was years later.
I was going to say, how did you, so if you can even talk about it, how did you end up getting, okay, so nobody has his phone and it just winds up. Like, how were you able to get his phone?
Well, obviously, right when I found out, I asked immediately where his phone was, and the funeral home for 3 days. Keep in mind, it's Memorial Weekend.
Okay.
So I was kind of in the dark. I was told about his death, before Memorial Weekend, and then kind of didn't hear anything until like Tuesday. I didn't know what funeral home he was at or any of that, but obviously his phone was the first thing I was after, and the police, I blew them up. It wasn't in his pocket. Nobody got the phone. The funeral home said that his phone wasn't in his pocket. They said his keys and a lighter
and a bullet. A bullet was in there.
Yeah, a shell for a 12 gauge, which I thought was weird. I never did find out why that was in his pocket, but yeah,
Did you know this guy?
Funeral home.
This Ted dude,
Ted Kohberger, I hired. He's a private investigator. I hired him right out of the gate. He was the local guy until I found out that he was the one who did all the police department's lie detector tests, and he was pretty plugged in with the police department.
Yeah, they are.
And there was some shady stuff with him withholding. So me hiring him and paying him as a private investigator and turning over, Isaiah had a track phone.
Okay.
I can't remember where I got his track phone, but I turned that over to Ted and then realized that Ted was just way too plugged into the police department.
Mm-hmm.
And so I fired him, and he refused to return Isaiah's track phone, and I literally had to threaten him. I went in his office and I had to threaten his through the Better Business Bureau, just to kind of make some threats about lawsuits and stuff for him to give his track phone back. So that was that. Anyways, I was done with him. That was the only private investigator I ever, hired. But
so they just called you one day? Like somebody just called you?
Well, it was that morning the police department called. You mean to notify me?
Well, I just meant like about his phone. Like, where did this come from? Like, where did this?
Okay, so I went to the funeral. So after talking over and over and over with the funeral home, I ended up going to the funeral home to pick out his casket. And that's when I got those pictures of him.
Okay.
In the back room. They didn't really want me viewing his body because I'm not sure why, but I found out after why, because they told me the shot went from temple to temple from the left side. So that was obvious that that's not what happened. But
yeah, it's not what happened at all.
I went in to pick out his casket, and the funeral home. We were sitting at the table. The funeral home director hands me some of his property, the stuff that was in his pocket, and after 3.5 days of me harassing people for his phone, they slid his iPhone over, and I just grabbed it and walked out, and I dug into the
I went
nucleus of it, for the next couple days or whatever, and got whatever screenshot, all the screenshots that I've given you and whatever I could. I never did figure out how his phone ended up at the funeral home until way later, and still don't have actual proof of that, but pretty sure Will's mom took the phone into the funeral home right before I got there, because I'd never really talked to her. Him and Will were friends for a long time. I'd never talked to her on the phone, and I remember amidst me breaking into his safe and amidst kicking doors down and all this, she'd called and asked me how I was doing, blah, 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 and what funeral home, or if I found Isaiah's phone and what funeral home he was at. And I was just so immersed in other things, I didn't really think much of it until way later, that she was covering up she was filling in the gaps for Will,
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until in the last year I found out that Will lawyered up immediately after Isaiah died. The police never told me that. After talking back and forth with the police, for months and months and months.
Did you ever get a recording? Like they said they interviewed him. Did you ever get a recording of that interview though?
No. I didn't get anything from the police. In fact, I remember the last time I went to the police department, like a normal mom would. What's going on with the investigation? Even though I was always 3 steps ahead of them, I finally went in one time with a recording, and they said, how about this? Why don't you put together a 3-ring binder with all of the evidence you've collected, all the interviews, all the information? They said, and why don't you give that to us, and we will work alongside you? And I was like, am I on the payroll here? Why would I do your jobs? I'm already doing your jobs for you. Like, why don't you do your own job? Obviously I didn't turn over all the evidence I collected, because everything they did, the few things they did, I prodded them to do, like the lie detector test, the, fingerprinting, any of the few interviews.
So tell me about that. So there's no fingerprints on that gun.
Mm-mm.
It looks wiped down. I mean, it looks so clean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't even on the right side of his body. It wasn't anywhere near him. There was nothing on it. And then there was a bullet that was popped out of the gun in the kitchen.
Yeah,
on the floor,
I saw that. Mm-hmm.
Which I think the person who shot Isaiah, might have popped one out and forgot about it, or it was just part of the scene that wasn't cleaned up. It's kind of camouflaged in there. But
that's exactly what it looked like to me too, that they missed it when they did their little cleanup.
Yeah. And the police, took pictures of it and never thought anything of it.
Oh yeah, they're writing up stuff like, we're gonna see if it matches. Of course it matched. Like when they opened up the gun, I could see. I was like, that's exactly what that is.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it is.
It's a match to the.
It's a 40. I don't believe that's what Isaiah was shot with. But
What'd you think about the shell casing being all the way over there by where the water was?
Yeah. Well, it was mushroomed out, and I don't even know if that was the same bullet as the one in his gun that mushroomed, because his were had gold on the end. I can't remember, but Isaiah had in his safe a little container full of mushroomed out ammo from when he'd go to the shooting range. I believe whoever shot him grabbed one of those and tossed it out there as part of the crime scene, because it's not going to go through Isaiah's head and just land on the ground next to him, with nothing on it. I did find a bullet hole in the fence. We're talking, and this is all like a year later. I kept going to the backyard because the house was abandoned.
Yeah,
I found the bullet hole. I found where it had ricocheted off the shed in the back alley, and I eventually found a bullet in the alley with a metal detector. It took me 3 months of going out there, but
are you serious?
That was the bullet that actually killed Isaiah because of the angle, and I had two people from Las Vegas fly down, forensic investigators, and they did the string and all that from where Isaiah was standing, and how fast and what velocity, the bullet would go. And we eventually found that. The police didn't say anything, but the bullet hole in the fence was covered up with vines. I'm not sure if the people there did it or if the police did that or what. They denied the fact that it looked like a bullet hole in the fence. The police did. I said that it's clearly a bullet hole.
Yeah, even if it was like, I mean, I just can't believe they just were like, oh, we're just gonna take everybody's word here and what it and what they say is what it is, and it's just like, wait, what?
I think the police definitely. I mean, there were probably maybe 6 officers on scene, or that did police reports at least.
Oh yeah, there was a bunch.
There was a shift change right in the midst of Isaiah's crime scene where all the officers left and the new group came on, which I thought was interesting. But you can hear it in the police reports. There was a wave of something right here,
Yep.
Which is what caused them to want to do a few interviews after. But I think they knew that it wasn't a suicide. But the interesting thing is Coeur d'Alene police, when they arrived on the crime scene, they didn't even know that Isaiah was an informant. It just shows how separate the agencies are. Coeur d'Alene police and ISP, they're not linked up. They're not buddies. It's like the kind of whiskey and tequila. It's kind of like whiskey and tequila,
You're absolutely right, because they all have egos too. It's like they want,
like a different brotherhood or something.
Yeah, it truly is. That's why when they team up to do a case, I always wonder I wonder how that's going to work out. You know what I mean? When you got people that are just iffy with each other, it's it's really hard to work like that.
They would blame shift in different interviews with Coeur d'Alene police, and they would blame shift to ISP or you need to talk to ISP about that. I got a lot of shifting throughout the process, but ISP, I never really heard anything from them.
Wow.
And Coeur d'Alene police obviously quit meeting with me when my first article came out.
Is that what they did when that happened in November?
Yeah, I was cut off after that. The last time I interviewed with them, they didn't take me into the office like they always did, like a month, where they would take a mother. They took me into the interrogation room on my very last meeting. I felt like that's when they asked me for the evidence and all that, and I had the camera aimed at me up in the corner and stuff. But
they did.
I knew when my first article came out, I knew that bridge was burned. But I had gotten everything I needed, kind of, except for them to do their jobs.
Yeah, I mean it's wow, and so
and so many things were happening in Coeur d'Alene at the time. A young kid got shot down by the lake on the 4th of July. I'm friends with his mom. He's a black kid, and he had a gun on the 4th of July. They told him to put his hands up, and I think they tased him, and so his gun went off, and they blew his legs off. I mean, he doesn't just not have legs. He doesn't have hips and everything, and he's still in jail.
What?
They're indicting him with how many ever police were shooting at him. 7 counts of, attempted murder or I don't know. His gun went off. Anyways, that was happening kind of all at the same time. There were a couple other cases going on. A mom Pastor Tim had gotten shot. A mom had just some other more important cases.
Mm-hmm.
So Isaiah's, became back burner.
Well, also it was, they don't want to bring attention to the fact that one of their confidential informants was killed.
Yeah, I believe that ISP and Coeur d'Alene had spoken at that point, and Coeur d'Alene police, was probably, instructed to drag their feet or, be as vague as possible, or just kind of get me out of the way, just.
Yeah, say whatever you got to do, but this can't come to light.
Yeah.
It can't come out that.
I could have taken Isaiah's murderer to the police department, but I can't prosecute the murderer, we need the police departments to do their jobs. Like, they take it. I shouldn't even be investigating my son's death, first of all. I should be mourning and grieving, I shouldn't be on the streets gathering evidence and interviews and putting myself out there, in danger. It's their job. And not only that, but great. I pretty much had all the evidence I needed to get justice for Isaiah. And you need them we need to hand it off to them at that point where they can actually get justice,
No, you're right, because you're absolutely right. We can't prosecute.
Yeah.
I mean,
a
citizen arrest. I was just going to say that. Can you do a citizen's arrest?
Right. Or street justice, which was always an option,
Yeah.
It's just sad that they, because Isaiah was mixed, maybe, I don't know, because maybe his dad was, was in trouble with the law or for whatever reason. I'm a single mom at the time. If we had been if I had been married and maybe affluent in the community, or maybe, a married couple, you would have seen way different results from the police department. I believe, because I was a single mom, and, just kind of, just like they said, a nest, my hair was in a nest on my head, and, that's kind of how they viewed me, cigarette billowing out my collar, at the cemetery. That's kind of the attitude I got the whole time. And so
really?
There was just no respect. One of the officers even told me, when we were talking about Isaiah's death, he even told me, well, he wasn't exactly a model citizen, is what he told me.
I mean, I'm sorry, but what did he really do that was so wrong? He got a DUI, I saw.
Well, the DUI was way earlier. The kid who did the controlled buys on Isaiah had gotten a DUI. I think that's where we were confused with those papers with the blue highlighter. Those were the controlled buys done on Isaiah.
Okay.
So I was trying to match up dates with Isaiah's phone to figure out who did the controlled buys on Isaiah originally.
Okay, so you wanted to go back to see who was the one that turned him in, because somebody calls him down to the station and says, hey, you did a hit and run?
Yeah. Isaiah's like, what the hell? He goes down there with his friend Chris Anderson, and they tell Chris to kick rocks, and they threw Isaiah on the ground, and they had him there for about 8 hours. I believe that was some of the scratches on his back. Like, he had like a little bit of a scratch on his back at the crime scene, and I believe they roughed him up a bit while he was there. I never did get it. I wanted the video of his interrogation.
Oh, so maybe we can get that. Let's see if we can get that for you.
Yeah, I never did get the video, because they record. I wanted to see how they procured him.
Yeah. How'd this all go down? I can't believe it though. Like 5/18, they have him in there, and then he's literally dead on 5/29.
Yeah.
Like 11 days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's what someone said. Like,
his web history and his browsing history during those 11 days was so dark. He didn't tell anybody what was going on with him. He was hiding. They wanted him to do controlled buys on one of his best little buddies, Joe, and Isaiah wasn't having it. And Isaiah was trying to get Joe the message, bro, you need to pipe down, disappear, or, Isaiah's trying to warn Joe, and he's giving the police the runaround on the controlled buys done on Joe. And Isaiah was it was a dark time for him. It was a lot of, he was gearing up, like he was buying bulletproof vests and ammo, and he had researched. It was just a dark, lonely 11 days. It's what breaks my heart is they just had him in a corner, because Isaiah's dad was in and out of prison his whole life. And so Isaiah was like, well, I'm not a caged bird. I don't want to be in prison like my dad.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also not a rat. Isaiah hated the police. He had integrity. He wasn't a snitch or anything but I think he just kind of had those on the scale on each side, and he was like, crap, they just had him in a situation,
Yeah. And that's horrible. I mean, like, especially when you read that article and somebody says, like, Mike Van Leeuwen says, well, we would never make somebody do something that they weren't buying before. It's like,
yeah, I put those two quotes from ISP. I put those right next to each other in my article. The one from Josh, or the one from Kemp saying, yeah, we would never have someone commit more of a crime than they had originally. That would be unethical, and Kemp said that would be unethical, and whatever else he said. And then right next to it, I had the quote of Josh Clark going, of Isaiah going, can't we just buy a smaller amount? It's going to look obvious. And Josh Clark going, nope, get in there.
Yeah, get the full. Get the full.
Yeah. And I think I didn't even mess around with meth. Sky should have put two and two together that Isaiah didn't mess around with meth.
Yeah.
I think he was probably just greedy, and wanting that $800 or whatever. He was probably just being greedy as a drug dealer and not thinking straight. He should have, the bells should have gone off for sure.
To been like, yeah. So now, what is
them contradicting themselves? Just.
Oh yeah, they always do that. Yep.
Unethical and whatever else he said.
Yeah, to like say that you like, I can't even believe when they were saying like these kids are more prepared than we are. Like they know who they're buying from. They know if they have weapons or whatever. Yeah. Like and I'm just like, are you seriously gonna say that?
Yeah. Like they said that they told me, these kids know the lingo and the street and the street talk and all that, and it's like so many of our teenagers are dying left and right all around the country. They're pulling them out of college on weed charges, like Rachel, for Rachel's Law. There's a boy in North Dakota. I'm friends with his mom. He was a CI, and they found him in a river with a backpack full of rocks, and said he committed suicide. She's lost, and she's done a movie over there in North Dakota. She actually got a documentary out about her son's life.
Yeah, that's what they were doing. And like Pullman was doing it at WSU, and so was Idaho. They were actually using the girls as their CIs, and I mean, you have really, really smart girls that are in these sororities, and they're getting in like. It's like they're going for them only because they want, hey, you're gonna like rat on your like boyfriend or like, you know what I mean, like the frat guys. And
yeah, they do that with young pregnant girls. Several pregnant girls got a hold of me way after Isaiah died and shared with me that the police were trying to use them, like cherry picking, but they're nobody hears about any of these stories like Isaiah's. They pick kids that are maybe from a broken family or maybe, with a bad history, like might be looked bad upon, or they pick the under, dogs kind of to do it. And so many kids are dying. We don't even hear about the stories. The moms aren't able to get anything out like what I did, and so many are going noticed.
Yeah, some of them are like the missing. If you go to like the missing persons pages, I was actually trying to do like I had been digging on stuff like that for like the past couple of years to look through Idaho, Montana, Washington at like the missing persons to see if, and then I was trying to run some of their names to see if they were ever in the system, and then maybe possibly turned CI, and then boom, here they're up and missing because they got taken care of and nobody can find them, and there's no one looking for them. There's no one looking for them.
Yeah, from maybe them being on drugs or being on the streets, being homeless or whatever,
Yeah. There's a lot of homeless people that the cops will go to and be like, hey, who'd you see around here? When there's stuff that's going on. They'll buy them food or whatever.
Kind of right when heroin came on the scene too. They were more after that than the meth, actually. They wanted Isaiah to be controlled by his little friend Joe for heroin. And but Josh Clark told a person that I knew very well at the time that it was just a game, for him. Like turning people into informants was just a game to him. And
what?
I never received an apology from Josh. I never spoke to Josh, although he was always all around me during when I was building my lawsuit. He was always asking about me or making people around me informants, having people, take my SD card out of my phone.
This is sick.
He was like always breathing down my neck, always during that time, but never answered any phone calls. And like I said, He did it in
shady ways, didn't he?
He just kind of was a coward about it.
Yeah.
He never. I called him a few times. He knew who I was. I mean, cops to this day still know who I am. If I get pulled over or whatever. But he wouldn't answer the phone. He was on an administrative leave of absence for a while.
How long was that?
After my first couple reports came out, and that was, I'm not sure the length, but it was paid, and I never did hear anything from ISP, no apology, no nothing, we were always just like two big elephants in the room. Like we always just knew about each other. They knew I had a lawsuit, going, I'm sure. But after I went to the media, I was protected. I was really on the don't fuck with list.
Yeah, people like, that's what I always tell people. I'm like, when you go public, that's your protection. When you go public, you got protection.
There's safety there.
There truly is. That's my dad always taught me.
And obviously, the louder you are, the safer you are in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Although that can go both ways,
Yeah, you just gotta be smart. You just gotta be smart about it. But yeah, because once you start, talking about it, then it's like, fuck, we can't do anything now because then all eyes are on what they just said. And
their up and ups will put them on hold. They'll be like, don't touch, and they can hate me from a distance.
Yep.
Or fear me from a distance,
Yeah.
I feel like threatening my other kids wasn't their kryptonite, that's when I put 2.5 years of transcripts and work and digging and searching and interview, all of it. I just put it all away and got no result. Just that day I dropped all my lawsuits.
I can't believe that, like, because they basically said, like, you have, why don't you focus on the kids that you have still alive, right?
You seem like a nice lady. Yeah. You need to quit knocking on doors, because I was coming up on getting closer to some more of the maybe, some more dangerous people involved. I'll put it that way. Distant family of Schuyler's and, just groups you don't want to really.
Yeah, because I would think that they would want. I mean, what do they want with 19-year-olds? Like, aren't you trying to get like the bigger dogs? Like, what do you like? You know what I mean?
Yeah, Isaiah was pretty plugged in, although he was kind of just started doing the black market at the time, as far as like Molly and things like that. That's what was all of his Western Union trips was. He was, just kind of Bitcoin had just popped on the scene, and like buying drugs on the internet was just becoming a thing.
Oh, wow.
Isaiah was, that week that he died, he was in the process of just getting hosed over by some guy off the internet.
Really?
Yeah, just telling Isaiah he needed to send more money, and Isaiah was just frustrated because he had done so Isaiah was no angel by any means. He didn't mess around with meth or anything like that, but he was pretty plugged in. I mean, everybody knew who Isaiah was, kind of, so in that aspect.
It was all just like weed and that's what I was noticing. Like he would get weed and cocaine.
Yeah. He just knew a lot of people. He was just very popular around here
And so if people like wanted something, they would just be like, hey, can you get me
Yeah.
so-and-so?
Yeah, Isaiah was always kind of, I mean, it's a pretty big town. He wasn't the only one, but why they chose him, who knows, you know, why they picked individual ones.
And now, so your heart, like, because I mean, I looked at all this stuff and I'm like, there's no way. I mean, I saw that post right before he passed. He said, you know, because he's a big, you know, carry guns and stuff like that. When I saw that he said that guns don't kill people, you know, people kill people, he posted that 2 days before that. And I'm like, there's no way that he shot himself.
He was super responsible. The laws in Idaho, the gun laws, are that you can open carry a gun at age 18 in Idaho, but you can't purchase a gun until age 21. Keep in mind with no hunter safety involved on either side. So you've got a bunch of teenagers open carrying and spinning their guns around, you know, with no hunter safety, and they haven't put out any money for him, you know, really. Isaiah, for whatever reason, he was kind of a political guy. I don't know where he got that, but he loved Trump, and he loved politics and weapon, you know, guns. He was going to go into the military. You know, he met with a recruiter several times, but Isaiah spent his own money on ammo and would go to the shooting range. You know,
it was like a hobby.
He was very responsible with his hobby. You know, his love for gun. When a teenager puts out their own money for ammo, you know, that's when that they're more responsible and more serious about it.
Yeah.
He wasn't careless with his gun. You know, he wasn't slinging it around like they said he was that night.
Oh yeah, that was whoever wrote that. Did he interview one of those kids?
Will.
Yeah, Will's full of shit.
Or one of the girls might have said that actually before they left.
Right, he was just like fling. Yeah, it was probably the shotgun one.
I don't know where the shotgun casing. I don't know why he had a shotgun shell in his pocket. He had shotguns downstairs, which I didn't get back until way later because this, you know, that was another thing. But yeah, he was very responsible. He was the kind of kid that could do more drugs or could drink. You know, he could just handle a lot more than most. He had a higher tolerance for things. He was the one, like, kind of, I hate to say it, but like driving kids back home or giving kids rides and stuff after partying, you know. He was always able to handle his stuff, you know, way better. And he was doing good in life. He had a new job, you know, with my dad and my brother doing construction. He had started going to church by himself during that time. Things were finally kind of looking up for him. He was about to move into his own apartment. Yeah, I was
reading that. Like, isn't that crazy?
He paid the deposit to the house he lived in when he died. It was disgusting, like filthy disgusting. Like,
yeah,
it was like a lair, no windows, just dark. All the people in it were dark. And Isaiah was miserable there. He didn't have a bed or anything, you know, so he was so excited to get into his own pad.
I know, I thought was weird that they didn't even know when they were asked, Christine was asked, you know, well, where is he moving to, or who is he moving with? She's like, I have no idea. And I'm thinking, this kid's lived with you for 6 months and you don't know where he's moving and who he's moving in with. Yeah. I thought that was crazy.
Yeah. She didn't have any information that was helpful. The only information she told the police was that she thought I was being greedy because I wanted Isaiah's items right after he died. She told the police I was being greedy and materialistic, is what she said.
Materialistic.
Isaiah was on the up and up. You know, when you commit suicide, your life's usually not climbing up. You know.
Yeah.
Those are the signs of someone who's coming out of it.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you think that it had something to do with like, was the kid out that he did the buys on, or was he, because he was still out, wasn't he? Like, he didn't get picked up yet until what, June?
Oh yeah, way later. He'd gotten on heroin in the meantime, and just kind of caught a few other charges after that. But yeah, they didn't. It was 4 months or whatever after 3 months that they even arrested him for those charges.
So it's crazy because when I was reading that, it's just like if you're planning on using, because then they dropped those charges.
Yeah, they dismissed all 3 of those charges, and I spoke with Skylar, several times after, and he wanted me to know that he didn't have any ill feelings towards Isaiah, and that Isaiah actually had changed his life because he actually eventually sobered up and, kind of got on the right path. So even though they wanted to use Isaiah to have the opposite effect on Skylar's life, the cops aren't concerned about these kids getting clean or anything. They just want the bus, Yeah. But Skylar ended up, doing okay in the long run, and wanted me to know how much he respected Isaiah and blah, blah, blah. I just had a gut feeling that Skylar wasn't, even though everything pointed in that direction, I just felt in my gut that he wasn't, directly involved. It was this jealous buddy of Isaiah's, that seemed, and his family that seemed.
Yeah, something doesn't. That house seemed way too clean. You had the paper towels out. You got
backyard.
Yeah, like everything about it, like.
Well, there would be blood all over the pavement. There would be blood on the top of the overhang. There would be blood everywhere. Isaiah was laying in the dirt. But that, if you look closely, and those pictures I sent you of the zoomed in on Isaiah's hand,
mm-hmm.
That's something I did. I zoomed in to look at the blood splatter. If there wasn't much blood on his hands. And first they had in the crime scene pictures, they had him, as they found him, which was kind of on his side, with his right hand in the shooting position, with the fingers curled up and the trigger finger.
Okay.
And then in another picture, they had flopped him over, and his right hand was then on the patio with the dirt on it. That's why there was dirt on the top of his hand, is because originally his hand was flopped over. They were moving his body around.
They moved him that many times?
Yeah, they moved him. And then in another picture, you'll see his left hand's in the shooting position with the trigger finger. You know what I mean? Like, and in the police reports, it was like, oh, right hand, left hand.
Hand,
left hand. Isaiah, I have pictures and videos of Isaiah shooting guns. He wasn't one bit left-handed.
When he should, yeah. What do you think? What do you think about?
They move him around so much, and in a crime scene, you don't move things. You don't move the body.
Oh hell no!
Back and forth, and roll it over.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Wow. Yeah, I none of that makes sense. That that he just that nobody hears anything, right? Nobody hears anything. It's just the one kid,
And all we had was Will's flipping up different stories. First, Will said he went into the kitchen to grab a drink of water and came back out and Isaiah shot himself. Then we find out that Will was for some reason, sitting on the couch in the living room, and Isaiah left Isaiah in the backyard. Then Will, went downstairs to sleep and hadn't seen Isaiah for an hour. His story's changed, which is exactly the reason why I started keeping my eye on Will right out of the gate. He left town 2 days after Isaiah died, went to some town, a lake town, with a couple buddies, and was partying it up. Will was selling pot on Tubbs Hill later that day after Isaiah died.
Wait, what? What? He skipped town?
He did 2 days after. Yep.
Did he come back to go to the funeral?
No, I had him speak at the funeral for the sole purpose of me recording him and watching him speak. I didn't want him speaking at the funeral because I suspected him right out of the gate. I never liked Will. I always told Isaiah I don't like him. Will was always super jealous of Isaiah, but Will bounced, like a day after the funeral or whatever.
Okay.
And partied it up. posts on Facebook, but I found out even later that same day, well, because there was no crime scene, they didn't tape anything off. The kids were in the backyard later that day, hanging out in the same backyard.
Well, did you hear that they were just one of the guys said, hey, one of the police officers was like, they were sleeping. Like when the police were there, they were sleeping. How could you possibly be sleeping?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, Will woke Ricky up, and Christine supposedly woke him up to let him know,
Mm-hmm.
And then when they knew Isaiah was dead in the backyard, they called 5 other people. Justin from Post Falls loaded his handicapped mom up into the vehicle, drove over. He was the mastermind of the whole cleanup crew and the one who actually called 911. But 5 other people showed up at her house before 911 was even called. When Justin got there, he asked her, have you called 911? She was like, no. He's like, why not? And she's like, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. But
yeah, she's a mom. She's a mom. How do you
she's a mom, but she was always super jealous of me. And I found out way after the fact that she was actually having Isaiah buy drugs for her in Spokane.
What?
Yeah.
Gosh.
It's just a lot of information. It's kind of.
Wow.
I mean, I feel like I'm talking your ear off.
No, that's what I want you to tell the story. That's just, that saying like, oh, there's like those cool, like when people are like, oh, those cool moms, those cool parents. Man, those people are fucking just. I don't think there's anything cool about that. I don't think there's anything cool about having and buying drugs from like your son's friends who, I mean, I think the one kid, he had a baby at like what, 14, 15?
Yeah. Ricky.
Yeah, was the baby there?
No, he didn't have the baby very often. And I don't know, Isaiah lived there. I lived on B Street. Okay, at the time, Isaiah grew up on B Street, I should say. So him and Ricky knew each other. Christine never liked me or whatever, and Isaiah moved in with her, and couldn't get out of there fast enough. But it was a big party house. She had all of her friends over for drinking parties in the backyard.
Yeah, they built a bar back there. Did you see that?
Yeah, Halloween costumes. They were big into like dressing up and weird stuff, like whatever. But Isaiah was always a light in that group. It was just a dark crowd over there. I feel like spiritually, in this.
Yeah.
But you know what? None of them. All of Isaiah's friends. Christine never came to the funeral. She never did anything about Isaiah. She never. She
didn't go to his funeral.
No.
And she's writing on his page like, "You're like a son to me."
Yeah, she didn't go to his funeral. She couldn't get enough talking crap about me after and during. Hers was the door I had to kick in literally to get his safe. And
that's horrible.
Yeah, she didn't care. She skipped right on with her life.
Yeah, I Facebook stalked her.
Isaiah's friends all like kind of blocked me. I was just kind of like the crazy lady. I don't know. A lot of his friends just really weren't his friends.
They probably used him.
Well, maybe they were his friends, or like Ricky. I want to put him in the wrong category. And Little Joel, everybody respected Isaiah, and Isaiah was the scrapper. He was the one that would stand up for people. If a girl was raped or whatever, he would make sure that he'd find the guy. He was that guy.
Yeah.
And if anybody needed somebody confronted or whatever, they'd all come get Isaiah. So he was kind of a vigilante, but
I love it.
Yeah, he's his friends were not very helpful to me.
Yeah,
if Isaiah
I think that people know it. I think that people know the truth. I do.
Yeah.
After seeing that scene, I think people know the truth.
Yeah, I agree with you. The people at that home at the time, I believe they all know, what happened. And,
oh hell yeah! No one just like, I mean,
you don't deny and bounce and bug out on interviews, when you're a best friend, or when somebody close to you you want to help out, and they just didn't want to talk to the police. Of course, nobody around here wants to talk to the police for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame that. I don't blame that portion of it. But like, I could.
It doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Police, put it that way.
But like, maybe coming to like you and saying like, hey,
Yeah.
like, I want to tell you about some stuff that's been going on. You know.
Yeah, I didn't get any help from anybody.
That's fucking disgusting. Hey, kids over there in Idaho, y'all suck. Like, all y'all listening right here. This is bullshit. There's a mom out there like, man, come on, think about that. It was you. Like, it's just so dirty. It's just, And I don't know who to blame though. Like, do we blame like the parents away? Like, I mean, how do you become such a shitbag?
I don't know. I mean, a lot of people are afraid of the police around here. That's one start of it, Nobody wants to work with the police in Courtney County, period. Whether it helps somebody else or, I think
it's getting like that in a lot of places though. Because it's like I think it's actually happening in a lot of places lately, because it's like when you go to help, like when you go to the police, guess what you do? It's like they think like you're inserting yourself in something. It's like, dude, I'm coming here for help. Can we go back to the days where like police were supposed to help people? Not that like, you know what I'm trying to say, like that I'm.
The original idea was, that
protect and serve.
Citizens and police would work together to get dangerous people off the streets. And it was meant to be where we would, kind of join hands and all that. And I don't know about
like neighborhood watches and stuff, like looking out for your neighbor.
Clinton County is one of the dirtiest counties as far as police force go. Statistically, like
really?
Courtney County's, it's pretty bad. But ever since Isaiah's death and all the exposure, I got ISP as far as their confidential informant program. Like in Montana or Washington, there's guidelines and rules for picking an informant. There's everything's public records available if you wanted to know about the CI program at the police department. And Idaho had no handbook, no rules. That like $900,000 that year was allocated for confidential informants funding, and none of it was allocated. Like Josh Clark wouldn't even give Isaiah gas money, hardly. You know what I mean? Like, I think, and then I feel like Idaho like really clamped up on they really tightened the reins after all of this. And ISP it's not ISP running informants anymore around here. It's more of they kind of created the task force, which is like a mixing pot of all the agencies all together. It's the task force, and there's anonymity there for the police. They're harder to pinpoint. They're harder to blame. When it's a task force, it's like a couple ISP, a couple sheriffs, a couple Coeur d'Alene, like maybe a couple feds. These task force are started after Isaiah died rather than ISP.
Yep, you're right.
I thought Idaho State Police was always like pulling over semis with like too long of a mud flap or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the troopers.
Before this day, Idaho State Police to me was always like road conditions and weather reports. I don't know.
You're right.
Yeah, but they're definitely off the scenes now as far as the drug scene. I think ISPs they've stepped into the shadows. Stepped back into the shadows a bit.
Well, so when you were talking about the task force, like I've noticed that that's actually big and prevalent around college campuses. So,
you've got the narcotics task force. You've got a gang task force. You've got a violent crimes task force. You've got an ATF. A couple ATFs too. You've got the guns and stuff task force. You've got the there's just different task forces, and they're all like they're all like a Heinz 57 of all agencies together,
Yeah. And then I think that there's just too many. I don't know. What I've noticed from the past couple of years of seeing the way that Idaho operates here is that you got too many chiefs and not enough Indians. And then you got people there. I mean, like you said, not even knowing what's going on. Like, how did nobody know that your son was an informant literally within 11 days and he was shot? Like, whether you think, I mean, that's automatic. Like, you need to investigate that.
Well, it was tough for me because I didn't want to ruin Isaiah's reputation either. And it was hard for me to decide to go to the media in the fact that I didn't want to mudge up my son's legacy. You know, I didn't like how the article came out, the 11 Days as a Snitch. I didn't like that at all, the name of that. But he said his editor made him pick that word for ratings or whatever. But
that's ridiculous.
You know, on the other hand, I knew that it was going to, I just kind of had I just kind of knew that it was going to be beneficial maybe someday. And Isaiah doesn't care what his, like, you know, he's not worried about it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, he get like his case, his story could save somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
like I said, several young kids came to me after because of my articles in the paper, and just opened up that they were in a corner. You know, because I was like, these kids have no. They tell them, don't tell your parents. They tell them, if you tell, don't tell anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Isaiah didn't tell anybody except for, I think, Chris Anderson knew during that time. But these kids aren't matured. They're tweeners. They're packed between childhood and adulthood still. You know, like they're not emotionally mature enough to handle. I mean, Isaiah was very mature for his age. I think he did better than anybody. But these kids are just terrified. They get them in a corner, and the kids will die by murder or suicide. You know, we're losing teenagers off. It's like, dress up your own teenagers, or I don't know, dress up somebody like Miami Vice and send your own undercovers in. You know, like back in the day, like
like have these people act like
learn the lingo if you have to, or take a class. I don't know, do your own work. Don't use our teenagers, you know? Yeah. Don't isolate our teenagers that are already, you know, unstable.
Yep. Yeah, too impressionable. I mean, it's just, I think it's
illegal.
It should be 100. I was just gonna. I mean, I'm sorry, but I can't even. He couldn't even buy beer. He couldn't even buy beer, and you're gonna put him as a CI. Get the fuck out of here! Like, come on.
And like poor Rachel. You know, if you look up Rachel's law, poor Rachel was just a girl. You know, she's in college. They got her on a weed charge. They send her in to buy firearms, and she gets shot in the face. You know, like
unreal.
And lost track of the guys that were supposed to protect her. You know, our kids aren't disposable.
Yeah.
You know,
you're setting up a bad situation. Like, what's going to come good of it?
Nothing. No consequences even came out of Isaiah doing controlled buys. Isaiah literally lost his life for nothing. Like, nobody even did any time because of Isaiah's controlled buys.
Yeah.
Except for me and Isaiah's family.
Yeah, I was going to say, you guys are the ones doing the time.
Yeah, it's like there wasn't even a reason. I mean, it didn't even have any end result. So, I don't know. I'm just firm on exposing the situation.
I also think I want to know what the end game is, though, because eventually the CI, what ends up happening, though? What if
the CI always ends up in jail?
Yeah, I was gonna say you're like, it's never gonna work. Don't even go do it. Hey, give me my time. Let me go do my I'll go do my, you know, because you're gonna eventually do it or you're gonna die. That's what it looks like to me. What the road is.
I say do your time and keep your integrity. You'll be out before you would if they used you like a puppet. By the way, the police treat these guys like horse shit. They don't respect these informants at all. And you can hear it in their voices. You know, they'll use you for a while. They're not gonna protect you from going to jail. You'll go to jail eventually, and then you'll have that shadow over your life. Just do your time, keep your mouth shut. I say how to talk to the police. Don't, less is more. That's my thing. And keep an eye on your kids, on your teenagers. Be involved. Stay in their face. If you're arguing with your teenager, or if there's distance there for whatever reason, fix it, parents. Fix it. Seek out your kids and never stop seeking them out. If they're hurting, don't ever stop loving them. Don't let them slip away. You know what I mean? We're here to protect them until, even when they're older. They're getting picked off by the world, essentially. And grab your kids. Grab your kids and let them know you love them, and be available. Make yourself available for these teenagers. But
that's so well said. Thank you, Courtney.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
I want to do this again. So I'm going to wrap up this, but then I'll call you back here when I wrap this up. But I want to do a part 2 because I want your take on a couple of things that are going on in your state, and see what you think about some stuff. And
okay.
But I just know that everybody has wrote it. Your other son was in chat. I don't know if you got to see him, but he wanted to say I love you, Mom. So I saw that come up, and everybody's just loving you so much. So But yeah, I want to have you back, and we're gonna see.
Yeah, you're doing a great thing there, and good job to you.
Oh, thank you, Courtney.
You're the conduit.
I'm a thorn in ISP's side, I can tell you that. They're like, oh, damn that bitch. Yeah.
You got big things going, and good job for having the balls to do it,
Oh, well, thank you. Yep, I'll call you right here. I'll call you right back, and then I'll talk to you here in a minute, hon, okay? Okay.
Good.
All right,
Thanks,
bye, Courtney.
everybody.
Okay, thank you. You guys, she's a rock star, I'm telling you. When I saw what she was able to do by herself, and then obviously she got some help, but she just didn't stop. She pounded on those doors, man. And so we're going to see if we can help her out. So if you guys could do me a favor, I know I'm going to do it. I think I shared it in my community section of my channel, and I'll share it back again. But I know that people were sending me cash apps or super chats or whatever. I want I want whatever you would give to me. I want you to give it to her and her family. They need some help right now. And so that's where I want, so you know how people say for your birthday, people have, oh, I want to do this fundraiser or whatever. I want my stuff to go to this family. So if you're on my live tomorrow, or just this week, check out my community page and toss it that way. So again, I want to thank the mods for being in here. Again, thank you so much, Courtney. Her family was in chat. We're here. We support you, and getting the truth out about what happened to Isaiah and his story. And I think it's going on in Idaho still, and it's dangerous. And if his story can save somebody, that's the hope. So thank you so much. Much love and appreciate. Have a good night, guys.